Good morning. This is a virtual PBX-admin training. Just giving this a couple more seconds here to make sure the audio is coming through properly. And then we'll go ahead and get started. The training lasts about an hour and a half or so, just depends on load times. If you have any questions about any features as I go through them, feel free to make use of the chat and I will go over the question. And still not hearing the audio come through. There we go. Helps when I have things unmuted. All right. Just a reminder, there will be no training next Tuesday. We're just basically skipping a week. And then we'll be back again the following Tuesday in July. Actually, I guess that would be July 5th. But let's go ahead and get started. So here we have our login screen, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can get there from the VirtualPBX website. Just click on the login link at the top right. There's a blue bar up there. You can click on that. For admins or anyone who has to get into ACD queues, I do recommend bookmarking this page so you can always get in here easily. To log in, we need your email address, which should be unique for each user, your password, and then your account name, which is typically your company name. Now, if for some reason you've forgotten your password, over here towards the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, there's a forgot your info link. You can click on that. It's going to flip it around. We still need your email address. And then in the next two fields, we need one of the two, right? So either a company phone number or the account name, right? Again, the company name. You click on reset password, the system's going to send you an email. It's going to have a link in that email that you can click on that logs you in automatically. However, it's only logging you in to allow you to change your password, right? You're not going to be able to change anything else. Once you change your password, it logs you back out and takes you back to the sign-in page. And that way you can retype the password you just said to help you remember it. But you also have the option here to click on Remember Me. And that's what I thought. There we go. Now, I'm using a test account that I've logged into many times a week. So by default, it's taking me to the dashboard page. If it's your first time logging in, it's actually going to take you to your account page. Now, you can always get to your account page at any time by clicking on your name at the top of the screen. So I'll go ahead and do that here. Generally speaking, this is where you would go to change your own password, right? So as an admin, you can change anyone else's password on the user's page. But for your own password, you need to click on your name up here at the top, and then you can change your password here. Now, you also have the account level settings over here on the left. The typical thing that's changed is the time zone. Now, on your accounts, you also have a billing section, right? So if we go back to user, there'd be another section just below that. That's going to have things like your credit card information, so you can change it or update it. You can see your service plan. You can see previous invoices. You can also see who the billing contact is, right? The billing contact is the person that we send the invoices to. They technically control the account, right? So they could cancel the account, make other changes. Now, when you're done here, you just click close over here to the top right, and then you'll be back on the dashboard. One thing I should warn you about that first time logging in, the wizard will pop up, so you'll have little pop-up boxes telling you what things are. And you'll get some also here on the dashboard, on the users page, and on the groups page. All right, so up here at the top of the page, again, you got your name, and click on that, get back to that user page we were just looking at. To the right, you can have a D&D toggle, right, for do not disturb. If you click on it, right? Now it's white. This means now I'm not getting calls. Now, once some people may not have the D&D toggle, and that's if they've been added to an ACD queue, right? So usually I'm part of an ACD queue. Looks like someone was testing and removed my user from the queues. Set that back to normal. Next, add the little question mark icon, right, for help. So chat with us opens up a chat window, typically in the bottom right of your browser, so you can chat with a support person. Web store, this opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like a VoIP phone or a router, among other things. Learn more, this opens a new tab and takes you to our support pages, so you can see specific guides for features. The guides typically will have screenshots. Some of them have videos as well. Right, and then, web phone. A web phone only shows up after a web phone has been added to your user. Once it's there, then it will show up here in this top right. This opens up a new tab. It takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. And if you're on Chrome or Firefox, you can log in using your Dash login information and then make and receive calls directly from those browsers. Here we have the menu icon, right? 3 horizontal lines. It's sometimes referred to also as the hamburger icon. And then the logout icon. Here we got my total users. So I have 21 users on this account. These are people who make and receive calls. For most of our plans, the more users you have, the higher your bill is. So that's something to be aware of. Now I have total devices, 34, and then a breakdown. First up, I have soft phone, right? So soft phone just means a software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So that's what it's considered a VoIP phone, right? So voice over internet protocol, right? Uses your internet to make and receive calls. The soft phone here looks like I have 13 of them, or 15, excuse me. This breakdown, this includes all soft phones, whether they're the VirtualPBX soft phone or a third-party soft phone. Web phone, right down here, next breakdown. Again, just that Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls. Cell phone, we all pretty much know what those are. SIP phone, that's a physical VoIP phone, right? So it's a piece of hardware. You can have it on your desk, pick up a handset, dial out. It's still a VoIP phone because it's going to be connected via Ethernet typically to get out to your network. I have unregistered devices down here, and it looks like only one, and that's in relation to my SIP phones. So one of them's offline. Maybe it's unplugged. Maybe they're having a network problem. Maybe their ISP is down. Don't know. Total numbers, I have 27, and I have a breakdown here. So your plan includes a set number of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. You can go over that, and if you do, then you're paying per month per phone number. It's going to vary depending on your plan, but like if you just signed up, it's $1.99 for a US local or a toll-free number. Now here I have a breakdown of assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number means I'm using it, right? So it's like one of my main numbers you see to the top right. It's a number I have directly to one of my salespeople or to one of my groups or an ACD queue, what have you. Basically, an assigned number means someone can dial it and either speak to someone, leave a voicemail, join a conference, or send a fax, right, in use. Spare number, on your account, right, counts towards your allotment, but you're not using it right now. So for instance, let's say you had a Memorial Day promotion going. That's now in the past here in the US. So you could take that number out of service so that way you're not getting calls about a promotion that's no longer applicable, right? Not in use. And it just means you can use it again later, right? Let's say you're saving it because it's a good number. You're like, oh, I like that sequence. I'm going to use that later for another promotion down the road. Next breakdown, USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free actually means US Canada toll-free, right? 1-800 number, 888, 877, all the way down to 833 currently. USDID just means a US local phone number, right? So if you have a phone number in Chicago, you enter USDID. Same as if you had a number in Dayton, Ohio. Again, still under USDID. You can have international phone numbers on your account if you wish. You're going to need to email our porting team, and that's at porting@virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you want a phone number from. They'll let you know if anything's available. And if so, if there's any additional requirements, right? That's going to vary from country to country. Some are very stringent, some don't care. Conference bridges, I have 3. This means I have enabled the conference feature on 3 of my users. Now, I'm not able to enable that feature unless I have a conference number already set up on the account. Over here to the top right, just below, we have my main numbers. So these 4 phone numbers, they all behave the same way. They all have the same main greeting. They're all going to the same location. Obviously, you can have multiple main numbers. Conference number, you can have multiple conference numbers if you want, but this phone number is what everyone dials to get to the conference rooms, whether they're your staff members, your vendors, or your clients. The fax box number, you can have one main fax box number. This is your inbound fax number if you still use faxes. The company directory, right here, this is a download link. It downloads a CSV file. It has your staff members, their extensions, and their devices. The soft phone directory, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. It downloads a file. You then upload it to the VirtualPBX app on your Mac or Windows PC. And this will allow you to see the status of the other soft phones on the account. So if my colleague Jeff is on a call on his soft phone, I'll see it, so I know not to call him at that time. Now, if my colleague Jeff has multiple devices, right, I'm not going to see if he's using his Polycom phone, right? I can only see the status of his soft phone. Store discount code, just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use in the web store. And then we have the account realm here. This is, again, unique to each account. You use this for a couple of things. One is to program a third-party application, right, third-party soft phone. It's also used for faxing out. So on Dash, when you send a fax out, it's via your email, right? So create an email like you normally do, but instead of sending it to your cousin Bob, you put the +, the number 1, area code and phone number you're faxing to, the @ symbol, and then your account realm. Then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file, and then you can click send. Right? The system does not look at the subject line. It doesn't look at the body of the email. It looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. One attachment, again, PDF or TIFF. Okay, up here at the top, we got caller ID. Now this pull down here will show any of your main numbers. My streaming software doesn't like to show all pull downs, so I'm not going to subject you to some flashing screens. Then down here, you have your company caller ID name. This is optional. In this box here to the right, you can include or type in up to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. It's a hard limit industry-wide. Then you have the company emergency information, or E911, wants a North American address. If you fill out the company caller ID name information, the system will basically force you to fill out the address information, and then click Save Changes. Now, once you click Save Changes, this company caller ID name, CNAME, gets transmitted to the other carriers that support CNAME. It takes them about 3 business days to update their information, right, or their servers. So that way, when you make an outbound call with one of your VoIP phones, right, say you have a Yealink phone or our VirtualPBX soft phone app, by default, the system's going to use this phone number as the outbound caller ID, and we're going to transmit this information as well. If the call happens to route through a carrier that doesn't support CNAME, the CNAME information does not get through to the destination. Now, because cell phones are so prevalent, something you should be aware of. When you make calls to a cell phone, the cell phone carriers, they control what shows up on the cell phones on their network, right? So they're the ones who hit spam risk or telemarketer. Not all of them, actually most of them will not transmit company caller ID name information all the way through to their subscribers. When I looked this up for my carrier, they wanted to charge me $10 a month to have company caller ID information show up in every call. I personally didn't care to do that. You know, if it was a couple bucks, I probably would have done it. But at 10 bucks, I'm like, no, you guys get enough of my money. So just something to be aware of. When you're making calls to cell phones, your company caller ID information may not show up. Hold music on Dash is after a call has reached a user and the user has pressed hold on their VoIP phone. Dash allows you to upload your own files, which you would just click upload, find it on your computer or device. It will play back MP3 .wav, WAV, and .ogg files. I typically recommend recording in mono, and I believe it's currently limited to 1 megabyte, although we're double checking that. We've had some conflicting information, so that should be updated hopefully shortly. You then click the up arrow icon and then click on Save Changes. Hours here is actually takes you to main number, subset of main number. So I'm just going to click on main number. So up here at the top, we have my main company numbers, right? So those 4 numbers we were just looking at on the dashboard page. Now, you can always add new numbers. Either adding from spare numbers means the numbers you already have on your account, right? Or you can buy new numbers. And this buy numbers just means adding to your account, right? So if you're under your allotment for your plan, when you click on buy numbers, you're not getting charged an additional amount, right? It's just adding to your allotment. So you have local or toll-free, right? Toll-free, you start by choosing the toll-free prefix you want to work with, and you click search. The system is going to pull up a list of numbers, typically, that you can choose from. Now, this list is dynamic, and that just means that you are actually competing with other people in real time. So you don't want to start, going through here and then adding a number to your cart and then go off to lunch, right? And then come back and then try to buy numbers. That number may no longer be there by the time you get back. But you would click on add, like I did, adds the number in my little cart, shows the number here with the option to remove it. But then you can click buy numbers, excuse me. Now the system is going to verify that the number is truly available, i.e. someone didn't snag it while I was talking, and then add it to the account. Local numbers, slightly different in that you need to know the area code. Right? Some area codes, when you search them, you're going to get this message, right? Sorry, there is nothing available. That means this area code has been exhausted. Not that it's tired, that there's no more available numbers. So what the fastest way to get around that is possibly using Google, but finding an overlay for that area code. So for 310, which is in Los Angeles, 424 is the overlay. And you can see here, there are many numbers available. You can also look for nearby area codes if that's acceptable to you, right? Like LA, there's many other area codes nearby that I could search for. In some cases, there might be areas where we can't get numbers, period. Like Seattle can sometimes be a problem, etc. Now, again, it's the same process, right? You click add number, adds it to the cart, buy numbers. If there's an area code that you really want a phone number in and it keeps coming up with that exhausted message, you can email our porting team and ask for a back order. Now, there's no guarantee we're getting a number when we make a back order. We can't give you an ETA because we're waiting on someone else to give up a number, and then we try to get it. So I had one customer wait over a month to get a number in a particular area code. So now we just wait for the system to finish activating here. doesn't normally take this long. It's a little interesting. All right, there we go. Now, you have a little gear icon here next to any of these numbers. So you can update the caller ID, right? So CNAM information here. This one, that allows you to turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM, right? So that way that information would show up on your staff members' phones. E911, all right, each phone number can have its own E911 address associated with it. And then this also then allows you on your VoIP phones to select a different E911 address based on the phone number, right? So basically you can select the phone number, say, okay, this is at this location. So that way when someone picks up that particular VoIP phone, they dial 911, it shows that address that you associated with it, hopefully the correct address. Prepend is a VoIP phone feature. You can put in text that shows up in front of the caller ID on your staff members' phones. Now, if you don't want to use one of these numbers any longer, then you would just click unassign, right? And then it just becomes a spare number. Office hours strategy. You start off at 24-hour open office, but you can choose to be on custom office hours. If you do so, for each day of the week, you put a check mark in front of the day that you're open, right? So Monday through Friday in this case. Then in these boxes here to the right, you select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Down here at the bottom, you have your choice of being closed for lunch, right? That means your entire system closes down for lunch, right? Everyone goes to lunch at the same time. If you want to do that, click on the check mark, and then you can set your lunch hours again in that 24-hour or military time, and then click on Save Changes, which might be cut off on YouTube. Next up, we have office holidays. So if you're closed for all holidays, you put a check mark. Then over here to the right, you have add holiday, you have single day, date range, and advanced. Each one of those would create a new row, right? So for single day, right, you give it a name, then you select the month and the date, you click on Save Changes. Right? If you want to remove a date, you just click on the little trash icon here at the right. Date range, just like I have here for Xmas break. Again, give it a name, start date and end date. Now, to be safe, we recommend not having a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, just because there's no year indicator here. In the past, that caused a problem. It hasn't in any time recent, but just to be safe, we still recommend not including New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. That advanced option is like I have set up here for Thanksgiving, where I say, hey, the third Thursday in November, we're on holiday, right? So this first pull down, you select the month. Second pull down, first through fifth and last are your options, and then day of the week. And again, save changes. All right, incoming call handling. This is how your system is handling calls that are coming to your main numbers. Notice I have tabs, right? I have open hours, I have lunch hours because I said I was going to be closed for lunch, after hours, and holidays. Now the options down here are all essentially the same, but you can set each one up differently, right? Because they're different times of day. So first one here, call comes in from those numbers to my virtual receptionist. I can click on the virtual receptionist. It opens up this window. Now, this is specifically to my open hours, right? So it only impacts that time, right? 9 to 5. Over here on my left is my main menu, right? This is what people can press on their phones to navigate through my system. Right down here, I click on Add Route. That gives me a new menu option. Now, again, these pull downs, the software doesn't like, but you have the default action, 0 through 9, as well as the star key. Right. Second pull down is where you want the call to end up at. So if we go back up here, actually, right. So smart PBX directory, right? Dial by name directory, company directory. Then you have options for any user. Right, so you're sending calls to a specific person. Call queues, this is if you're making use of call queues, right? That's a call center feature. So multiple people typically. You can send callers to a specific device. Now, you want to make sure either that this device you're sending it to always has someone there or has its own built-in voicemail or answering machine, because otherwise the phone will keep ringing and ringing until the person hangs up. Media, this would just play a media file, right? So like you could use it to give hours of operation or directions. After the media file plays, the call ends. The system will say goodbye. Groups, departments. They're like the simpler version of ACD queues, technically. Advanced call flows, this is if you're making use of submenuing, right? 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, that sort of thing. And then voicemail boxes, right? Just press the menu option to leave a message. Now, over here on the right, we have your greetings. So this is where you say, thank you for calling. You usually give your company name or organization name, and then you want to give instructions to your callers, right? Like what they should press to get to who, right? 1 for sales, 2 for support, that sort of thing. Then you have several different greeting options. So first up, text-to-speech. In this box here, which I don't know if I can really highlight, but you can type in up to 250 characters, right? So characters, not words, right? It doesn't count spaces, fortunately. You would then click update, right? Save changes. And then the system saves the file. Now, it doesn't allow you to name the file. So in this case, because we're in our open hours, it's going to name the file main open hours menu TTS, right? For text to speech. If you go back in and change this greeting, like let's say less than an hour later, right? You made it, you called it in, you're like, oh, that didn't sound right. Or I forgot to put Bob's, menu option. You can come back in, you can retype it, right? Or edit your existing file. You would click update, save changes. Now you're going to have 2 files named main open hours menu TTS. So my recommendation, if you're making use of the text-to-speech, is after you create it, you want to go over to your greetings tab, which we'll be getting to shortly, rename that file, right? Just to make it something somewhat identifiable to you, right? Even if it's just main greeting 1, right? At least you know that was the first one you created. And that's just important for the pull downs that come up later where you can use greetings. You can upload your own file, .wav, .mp3, .ogg. Again, recommended recorded in mono. Click on choose file here. It's going to bring up a window on your computer. Find the file, click update, save, and save changes. Choose from existing recordings. This is a pull down that shows all the media files on your account. So whether they're voicemail greetings, they're your main greetings, even if they're hold music kind of files, they will all show up in this. So that's why you want to have names you can recognize easily. You can record it over the phone. Now, the system says here, pick up a phone registered on the account. What that means is pick up a VoIP phone. That's a security feature. Right? Because the system knows when the VoIP phones are registered to it, so it knows, oh, this is tied to this account. So it's okay for you to call in and record it over the phone. Now, let's say you just signed up with us and you happen to order VoIP phones from us at the same time. Obviously, you can set up your account before your VoIP phones arrive. But since they're not since you don't have the VoIP phones for you to call in, the way around that is under here, under settings. And this setting right down here, allow outside recording. If you turn this on, now you can change your voicemail greetings with a cell phone or a landline. So then you would call your main number, right? That's that second instruction here. And then you're going to enter this PIN number. So if you just signed up with us, when you call your main number, you're going to hear a message saying, the greeting for this menu has not been saved or recorded. I think it's recorded. right? It will then ask you for the PIN number, right? And then walk you through recording it over the phone. But you can still record a greeting over the phone if you already have a greeting in place. So let's say you had a text-to-speech greeting in place, right? For, just for testing, and you're like, okay, let me record a one over the phone now. So it's, comforting for my customers to hear my voice, right? You would set this to on, you would call in. When that main greeting plays, you would still enter this PIN number. The system's going to recognize it because you're calling in during your open hours. And then it will walk you through recording greeting over the phone. Now, when you record over the phone, there's no option to change the file name. It just uses the existing file name that was there, right? So it's actually possible in your greetings manager to see a main open hours menu TTS file name, but actually have the source be recording. So the reason I bring that up is typically during holidays, people sometimes want to call in, record a greeting to cover, hey, we're closed for this holiday. And when they do that, they sometimes overwrite their normal main greeting that they use for most of the year. And there's no way for us to get it back, right? Because the data was completely overwritten. Right. Professional recording services, when you click order, you're going to get sent to a new tab will open up, and you'll be sent to Snap Recordings, where you can order a greeting from them, right? They have professional voice actors and actresses, various versions of English, French, and Spanish, so you can do multilingual greetings. They have hold treatment. They bill you via a credit card, typically speaking. They deliver it to you via email, and then you would just upload your own file. All right, settings. So these first two are somewhat related, right? Number of retries on dial and dialing timeout. Number of retries on misdial is how many times the inbound caller can make a mistake. The dialing timeout is how much time the system listens for additional button presses after the first one. So, customer calls in, and let's say they press number 7. Well, they only get one retry, right? So that means this. So they press 7. The system waits a count of 5, right? Seeing if there's additional button presses. Says, oh no, you meant just 7. It's not a viable option. It's not an actual extension number. Now it says, okay, you get one retry. So the main greeting plays again. So the customer then enters in, let's say, 8. System again waits 5 seconds, ensure that there was any other digits coming. Now, since it's this last retry, right, because I only get the 1, right, so 2 total attempts. Now the system will go, okay, it's not a valid option, but there's a default action. At that point, the system would send them to the default action. If I remove the default action, then the system would say, we did not recognize your entries, and say goodbye and end the call. And the reason you might want to not have a default action is because that can cut down on robodialers, right? Robodialers can call your main number, listen to your greeting whatever many times, and have as many retries. But after that, it just ends, right? It's not able to use up more time leaving a random voicemail of who knows how long. All right, allow outside recording. We covered that under the recorded over the phone. Then we've got allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on. All it means is if someone calls in, enters an extension number, the system will accept it and transfer it to that extension. If I turn this off, when a caller calls in, they enter an extension number, the system treats it as an invalid entry, basically forcing that inbound caller to press a menu option. And then to suppress the playing of that invalid entry message. So by default, the system will tell the inbound caller, hey, we didn't recognize your entries. If you don't want that message to come up, you would just click that on. Now, if you make any changes to your main menu, to your greetings, or to these settings, you need to click Save here. Right? It takes me back to incoming call handling. You need to click Save Changes here. Right? You're clicking Save twice. All right, second option. This is the live operator answer. See, I thought I had one. Oh, guess They all got reset. So this first pull down, you basically deciding who gets offered the call. So you can send it to a user, you can send it to a call queue, right? You can send it to a specific device. In this case, it's only going to ring 20 seconds. It's hard coded into the system. You can send it to a media file, which I don't recommend because you're right. The media file plays and then it goes to the virtual receptionist, and then you have another greeting, right? So that can throw people off or frustrate people. You can send it to groups, right? So department or one of your other attendants or menu secondary options. So like if I send it to front desk, right? This is sending a call to up to, like I could have 5 people in this group, right? I could have it set so it rings all of them at once. If they're not able to answer, then it would go to my virtual receptionist where the person can enter menu options. Now, I'm on my lunch hours, so if I click on virtual receptionist, I have different things set up here. So I could set up a default action, I can have a different greeting, set up different options, etc. And then I would want to click Save Changes. This option here, you're offering the call to somebody. If they're not able to pick up, goes to voicemail. Again, it's a pull down, so you can select very many options, right? Users, queues, again, devices for 20 seconds. Users also for 20 seconds for that matter. Media file. In this case, a media file is fine, right? Because it's a greeting. You're just saying, hey, sorry, we're not able to take your call. You called us after hours. Hold on to the line. You can leave a message, kind of thing. You can scroll down. You still have groups, advanced call flow, or you have the option just send them straight to voicemail. So no greeting would play. You just boom, straight to a voicemail box. This pull down is you select the voicemail box and then save changes. Last option here is only if you have multiple auto attendants or advanced call flows in use. So it won't show up for everybody. But basically, you're sending calls to a secondary attendant or advanced call flow instead of your normal routing. All right, main conference number. You can have multiple conference numbers, so you can add from spare or buy new. You can set up a custom greeting if you want, which is just text to speech. Right, you would just click enable and then type in a text to speech greeting, right? 250 characters, click on save. Even if you don't have the custom greeting, the system says welcome to the conference and prompts the caller to enter the conference room number and then the PIN number. Main fax box number, you can have just the one, which I already have assigned, but otherwise, if I didn't have one assigned, right, I'd have either add from spare or buy new. You can click edit fax box here. Here, right, in case it wasn't really easy to see, right, click edit fax box, and this is where you have a couple settings. So first, the inbound notification email. You enter an email address to the right. This person will get an email every time a fax comes through, right? There'll be a PDF where they can double click on to view the fax, but they also, in the body of the email, they'll have the date, the time, phone numbers involved, etc. Now, if someone dials your fax box number, let's say from their cell phone, right? They'll hear fax tones, they hang up. The system still registers that as a fax attempt. In that case, Bob here would get an email saying that there was a failed inbound fax attempt. I bring that up just because if you were actually expecting a fax from someone that failed and you recognize the number in the call log or in the email, right, then you'd want to contact that other person, see if there's some details that they have on their side, like if their fax machine returned an error message. But if you're getting these failed attempts and you're not expecting faxes from anybody, you can check your call log, right? Because the phone numbers will show up in your call log for that day. And if you don't recognize the numbers, you can probably assume that that's someone just dialed your number by mistake. Or you could just call them and find out. Right? All right. Auto attendance, this is a plan-specific feature. Basically, it's for a couple use cases, right? One is if you want to make use of submenuing, right? That one for English, two for Spanish idea. The other is if you have multiple small businesses where they each have their own phone number, their own main greeting, but you have the same staff members answering calls for each business. Those would be the reason. Those are the main reasons people would want additional auto attendants. So up here at the top, you would click on Add Attendant. You give it a name and then an extension number. The extension number is just for your staff use, right? Your customers are not likely to ever know these extension numbers. And then click on Create Attendant. Once an attendant is created, you have a choice. The first thing you do is you want to click on the name, and this is where you have your first choice. It defaults to unavailable in main menu. And that just means it's a standalone attendant, right? Not to be able to associate from any other way from the phone system. Right? So if they called a different main phone number, there's no easy way for them to navigate to this auto attendant unless one of your staff members transfers them there. Right? But you can click on that and make it available in main menu. Now it's a sub-menu option. It could be a menu option under your virtual receptionist or a couple other places. Right? So that's what you would do if you want it to be like I have here for Spanish, where, hey, it's available in my main menu, so that way people can select it as an option. The phone numbers box, I can add from spare numbers or buy new numbers, so my attendant can have its own phone number or multiple phone numbers if I want them to. Extension box, right? You can change the extension or add multiple extensions. If you're going to change an extension number, I recommend adding the new extension number first, clicking Save Changes, then unassigning the original extension, and then Save Changes. And then we have the wrench icon here underneath the settings. And sometimes takes a little bit to load. Now, you see here, I've got open hours, lunch hours, after hours, and holidays. My secondary attendants have the same time or same hours of operation and holidays as the main numbers, right? That virtual receptions that we've already set up. And because they're secondary attendants, you only have the option to send calls to the virtual receptionist. Again, these are each their own, right? They're going to have their own menu options, their own greetings. You can have their own settings. And then you would click Save and Save Changes. Devices, this shows your devices on the account. Green means it's registered, so we can send calls to it. Red, unregistered, right? So we can't send calls to it. And then black means you've turned it off over here to the right. Now at the top, you click Add Devices. First up is SIP phone. This is a physical device, right? Hardware. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some of them have a lot of models, right? Some not as many. But you would find the manufacturer and their model. You give the phone a name, right? Bob's phone, right? So person's name phone, I usually recommend, or like the location, right? Break room phone. And then you need the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each device. It is typically on a sticker on the back of the phone. Sometimes it's labeled as MAC, other times a serial number. If you're at the phone itself and it's plugged in, usually under its status or basic settings, MAC will show up under one of those typically. And then you can record the information here. You would then click on Create Device. And the only other thing you have to do within our dashboard would be assign it to the user. So the Users tab right down here. Now, in the dashboard, you're set. However, you need to access the phone's user interface, usually a web user interface. And you need to give it a URL. Basically, you're telling it, hey, go here, get your config file. When it does that, it will reboot a couple times, typically, and then show up as a green device. Now, for the specifics of that, you want to go to our support pages and you want to look at the document, called Auto Provisioning Phones. That's going to have screenshots for these 6 manufacturers. for their general, what we see their general UI, the proper syntax for that URL, and usually a couple settings to verify. Right? But it's basically done here, go here, go here, go here, has screenshots along the way. So then you know what to do. Cell phone and landline are the same in that you just give it a name. And then in number, you put the plus sign, the number 1, area code and phone number, and click on create device. Now right down here, I have a cell phone. All right, so here I got the name of the device, I got the phone number. If I go under advanced options, there we go. This is the default settings for a cell phone or a landline. Now, when the system offers a call to a cell phone or landline, right, the phone's gonna ring, and typically you'll pick up. You're gonna hear a message say from the system saying, "This is a forwarded call. Please press 1." So when you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there. Yes, you want to take the call. Now, that works fine if it's an actual person answering the call, right? If you're actually, let's say you added a phone number but you want to use it to go to your automated answering service for your after hours use. Then that after hours, automated system doesn't know when to press 1, right? It probably can't press 1 because it's a machine. So in that case, you would want to take this setting here, put a check mark here, right? Allow use of cell phone's voicemail. What that does is when we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call, right? We don't wait for the pressing of the 1. We don't even play that message of saying this is a forwarded call. We just send the call to that phone number. When we hear pickup, we connect the call. Now, if it's actually your cell phone, what can happen is your cell phone voicemail can pick up. That's still a pickup tone, so that inbound caller can end up on your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that. Some people definitely do not. The other thing that can come over here is keep original caller ID. Right, so customer memory calls, right, gets to your cell phone. You don't recognize the phone number, and you've been getting robo-dialed by extending your auto warranty or political calls, right, for upcoming primaries. You're like, I'm just going to let it go. If it's a legit call, I'll check the voicemail. Now, maybe you're not able to, reconnect with customer Mary. She moved on to a competitor, for example. So what you could do is uncheck this. So now when the call comes in, instead of showing customer Mary's phone number, you're going to see your main phone number. Go back to the dashboard, right? This phone number up here is what would show up as on your cell phone or your landline. So that we know, oh, it's a work call. This is probably worth me answering. Soft phone. So there's a warning message for soft phone and for web phone. Now, if you add a soft phone on the devices page, you can only add a third-party soft phone, meaning you cannot add a VirtualPBX soft phone here. That's something to keep in mind. But basically, you would give it a name. You'd want to copy the SIP user information, or SIP username, excuse me. Click on the SIP password box so you can copy and paste that. And then you want to copy and paste the realm information. Those are the 3 pieces of information you need to program your third-party soft phone application. Then you click on Create Device, and then you'd eventually need to add it to a user. Now, also on devices, you have a little wrench icon here under Edit. So under Advanced, right, you can see that SIP information. Audio is for the codecs. So for third-party soft phones or physical phones, you want to make sure G711A and G711U are here. Restrictions you don't have to worry about. Oh, the emergency caller ID. So this allows you to select phone numbers that have E911 addresses associated with them. And then you can select it. Save changes. So now when someone dials 911 from that phone, the E91 address that I associate with that phone number would be what is transmitted to emergency services. All right, greetings tab. This shows all your media files on your account. Right, so main greetings, voicemail greetings, etc. You can see the name. The source is going to be either upload, TTS for text to speech, and recording, meaning recorded over the phone. You can download these files so you can listen to them to see if they're still legitimate or that you want them. Little wrench icon here. This allows you to change the file name. So, for instance, like I have a Spanish open hours menu TTS, right? I could click on the edit icon and I can change it just to say Spanish main 1, right? So now I know, hey, this was the first of my Spanish greetings that I've made. Oh, up here at the top, you can upload greetings. You give it a name, find the file on your computer, .wave, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono. Try to keep it under 1 megabyte. And then you'll click on create greeting. It would then upload it and show up on this list. Groups, short or sometimes referred to as ring groups or hunt groups, right? Departments. This is an included feature, so it's not something you have to worry about. Additional cost. Up here at the top, you click add group. You give it a name and an extension number. Now find now this allows you to make sure you don't reuse an extension number, right? So like there shouldn't be 2 4s, for example. I'm not quite sure why that's there. But ideally, you just enter an extension number that's not in use. And then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group. Click on create group. Once a group's created, you can click on its name, right? So you can always change the name right here. And you have the group call attempts. This is how many times the system will offer calls to your staff members in the group. You have little arrows here to the far right where you can increase or decrease it as needed. You can also delete a group if you no longer need it. And then click on Save Changes if you're keeping it. Next up, we have the members box. Right, I have 5 staff members. And this is right here set up as blast ringing, right? So it rings them all at the same time for the same amount of time. Now, the other option or things to notice up here along the top are timestamps. The default time is 120 seconds, 2 minutes. You can edit that box. You can also click this distribute button. So now calls are going to ring in this order, right? So Aaron gets the first call every time. Now, let's say Aaron just got assigned a new project, but he still needs to be in this group, right? I can click on his name and I can drag it down to the bottom. Now, he's still first because he starts off at that 0-second timer, but I can click distribute again. And so now David's first and Aaron's last. These are sliders, right? So I can adjust the time ranges. Oops. Do something like that if I'm so inclined. But that's basically the limit of the routing options you have in a group. Some things to keep in mind about groups is that your staff members can take calls from the group with basically any device, right? Cell phone, landline, VoIP phone. It will work. If a user has multiple devices, a call from their group will ring all of their devices at the same time, right? So say Aaron has 3 phones, cell phone, web phone, and we'll say a Yealink phone, right? Call comes to one of his group, all 3 of them are going to ring at the same time until he answers one of them. Right. Groups can have extensions. They can have multiple extensions if you want them to. They can have their own phone number, right? Add from spare, buy new. Again, they can have multiple numbers. And then they have group features. So ringback. By default, when a call comes into a group and gets offered to your staff members, right, their phones will ring. When the system hears their phones ring, right, it pipes that sound back to your inbound caller, right, so they hear something, right, that ringing sound. Now, if you don't want that ringing sound to come through, you can enable a ringback and select the media file, oops, or upload one, right, .wave.mp3.ogg, and so that will replace that ringing sound. In a rare instance, if for some reason we're offering calls to your user and we're not getting a ringing sound, so let's say we get a busy tone, right? There's no ringing sound to replace, so that inbound caller hears silence. So in that instance, you would want either multiple users being offered to call at the same time or VoIP phones in place. Next action, pretty important feature, is if no one answers, what do you want the system to do with the call? To pull down here, you can send it back to your main menu. You can send it to one of your secondary attendants that's available in main menu. You can send it to a call queue. You can send it to a specific phone. You can send it to a different ring group. You can send it to one of your users, right? So a specific person. And then lastly, you can send it to a voicemail box. And then save changes. Allow call forwarding. If you enable it, that means your users can make use of call forwarding on their phones, right? So they're not going to be at their normal desk phone. They want to send calls to their cell phone. Caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. You can add text that shows up in front of the caller ID on their VoIP phones so they know what the call is about. Right, especially useful for staff members who have multiple groups or multiple roles, so they know what they're talking about or what the kind of call they're about to have. Numbers starts you off on your numbers in use. This shows you where your numbers are, right? So like on geo, a main number, etc. This little gear icon here, so you can adjust the caller ID, right? The E911, the prepend, etc. But you can't unassign these phones here, phone numbers here, right? This just shows you, hey, this is where they're at. Spare numbers. So you can add new numbers here, right? Under by, and we just add them as spare number. If you wanted to remove a number from your account, then keep an eye up here where it says numbers and by. When I click on the box in front of a number, now I have the option to delete. It says, are you sure? I'm confirming the deletion. And now it's removed from my account. You also have the option here to port a number. This means port means to move a number from one carrier to another. So say, from Verizon to VirtualPBX. Just click on new port request, give it a name, choose local toll free, and then it wants to upload a copy of your bill. So from Verizon, it's going to ask you for the address associated with it, the phone numbers that you want to port. You can then download a blank letter of agency or LOA, and then upload a completed and signed LOA, and then submit the port. Some things to know about porting. Toll-free numbers take about 3 to 5 business days to port. Local numbers average about 2 to 3 weeks. And in both cases, that presumes everything is correct. Right? The letter of agency, the information there that it asks for your company name and the address, that should match what your current carrier, right, so Verizon in this case, has on file. Right? The LOA does need a signature. Right? You just can't type in your name twice. You can use a digital signature file. That's fine. Right? Or you can just print it out, sign it, and scan it back in. Either way works. If we get a rejection, our porting team will let you know. Now, they normally double check to make sure there wasn't a typo on our side. Right? But once they verify that, yeah, everything looks correct, at least in terms of matches what you gave us, then we will let you know, hey, your current carrier said there's a problem with the information and they rejected the port, in which case you would need to talk to the current carrier to find out what information you actually need, right? What the correct information should be. Users, right? Shows all your staff members on the account. Person with the blue suit, this is a system admin. Little gray person icon, standard user. Up here at the top is where you add new users, and you basically fill out the form, right? First name, last name, that's pretty easy. The email address used for login, this needs to be unique for each user, right? You cannot reuse email addresses. Then you would create a password, and then you can also enter an extension number. The system will suggest an extension number for you, like if you start off like we did here with extension 1000, it's saying the next available in that sequence is 1022. I can ignore that, right? I can just say, hey, I want this extension number instead for this user. Now, create voicemail box for the user. This it's automatically checked, right? So that voicemail box is intrinsically tied to this user. Say I finish creating the user, and then let's say I add a Yealink phone to them, right? It's right on their desk. After we've added the user and added the phone to their user, that person can pick up their Yealink phone, dial *98. It's a feature code that logs them directly into their voicemail box that I just created for them here. The system will then prompt them to enter a PIN number, so that way they have a PIN number to access their voicemails, and then walk them through setting up their voicemail greeting. Right? Get them all set up right away. Then you have the option, do you want them to be in the user directory, right? The dial by name directory or smart PBX directory. Then you've got this one here, send emails to an alternate address. So by default, if the system needs to send a user an email, it uses the email address used for login. For instance, for things like a voicemail notification or a password reset. Now, if for some reason you don't want those voicemails or those emails to go to that original address, then you would use this send to an alternate address to have those voicemail emails, for example, go to a different email. It will supersede the email address used for login, right? So it's still only sending the one email. And then this one here, which I think is important, send credentials to the user. All right, so that way they get an email saying, hey, this is how you log in the Dash. If you only need to create one person, right, create user. If you need to create multiple, create user and add another. Now, once a user is created, you can click on their name. You can change their name if you need to, right? Someone got married and changed their last name, or someone just changed their last name or changed their whole name. You can click on change credentials, so you can change their email address or their password. You can also send them the password reset email. Let's say Aaron here, he and I are on different wavelengths when it comes to passwords. So here, create your own. Voicemail PIN, you can change the PIN number for voicemail box if you need to. Here's your option to send to an alternate address again. And here's your option to add or remove from the user directory. This pull down, this allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin into a user. Whoops. Sorry about that. You can also accidentally change an admin back to a user if you're not careful. We've had people do that to themselves and basically lock themselves out. Here, you can change the time zone, right? So that way their voicemail timestamps are correct. Little flag icon here. This changes the display language of the Dash pages to the user. You can change to English, French, German, or Russian. Ringing timeout. This is the default time that the system will offer calls to a user. Right? The default is 20 seconds. There's plenty of time to offer calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If a person's only using a cell phone, you're going to want to bump this up to at least 30, maybe even consider 40 to 45. It simply takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than to a landline, right? Landline, the telecom company knows exactly where that phone is. Cell phone, telecom companies, they have to find the cell phone first before they can route the call to it. All right, users can have multiple extensions if you want them to. Just click on Add Extension. They can have their own phone number or multiple phone numbers if you want them to as well. You can assign it here. You can also do the E911 or caller ID. Here on the user's devices box, it lets me click on it. There we go. Right, you can add from spare devices, right? So devices that you were previously using, you can add in, or new devices. You have that same options as before. Now, the one I want to highlight here is a soft phone. So this is where, or this is how you would add a VirtualPBX soft phone to a user. We'll give it a minute to pop up the big box. So here it looks the same, except for one minor change down here at the bottom, right? It says use third-party application. You click that, it flips it. So now it says use VirtualPBX application. You just need to give it a name, click on create device, and then click on save changes. When you click on save changes, the system will email the user, in this case Aaron, right, saying, hey, your VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. Here are your credentials, right? So your soft phone, your VirtualPBX soft phone has different login information than your Dash login. And download links, right? So you can download it to his, his iPhone or his Android phone, Windows, or Mac. And one thing about the soft phone, just make sure you're only logged into one device at a time. Right? You don't want to be logged in on multiple devices. That can cause problems with the routing. The other thing you can add is the web phone. Now, I didn't cover that under devices because the web phone, to log into the web phone, you need to have a Dash login, right? Because it uses the same information. So you might as well add the web phone directly to a user. You give it a name, click on create device, click on save changes, and then Aaron here can then go to webphone.virtualpbx.net, use his Dash login information on that page, log in, and now he can use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. All right, user features, caller ID number. You can enable this only for users that have their own phone number. Right? If Aaron didn't have a phone number, I wouldn't be able to enable this feature. But then you can select which of his phone numbers, if he has multiple, that you want to use. You click on Save Changes. And what this means is when Aaron makes an outbound call, his outbound caller ID is this 703 number, not the main number on my account. Likewise, then I might want to change like his CNAME information. So it could reflect either his name or probably more importantly, the company name. Virtual text, this is a new feature. This allows you to text basically from specific phone numbers. Now, when you enable it on a user, you can select their number or any of your main number or auto attendant numbers. The key feature about virtual text is you can share numbers among your staff members, so that way you have multiple people keeping track of your texts that are coming in and out from your business, right? Check out the virtual text pages on our main website to you can give a better idea of what it can do. I can't show you basically anything about it here. If you're an existing customer, right? Virtual text was just launched at the end of April. So if you were with us before that and you want virtual text versus our previous texting solution, you want to talk to our account services team because you'll have to change your plan. Voicemail box, this is basically default. One thing to know is transcription here. This is actually a plan-specific feature. And all it is the system listens to your voicemail and tries to type it out in that email notification to you. Right? So that way you don't necessarily have to listen to it. Now, the transcription is, I guess it's referred to as best effort. Right? It does the best that it can, but like if the person isn't speaking into the microphone or they're calling you while driving with their window down, right? There's all sorts of wind noise. There's only so much the system can do in those kind of situations. All right, so voicemail to email, what that means is this checkbox here. The system's going to attach an MP3 file to the email notification. The email notification will still have like the date and the time, the phone numbers involved, etc. All right, but then we attach an MP3 file so you can just double click on that on your email and listen to it. Now, one thing to keep in mind about voicemail boxes, they can only hold 100 messages. After that, the voicemail box is full and cannot accept any more. So your staff members or you or your admins would have to go into any full voicemail box and delete messages. Now, one way around that would be the delete after notification option here. Right? So basically what happens is if this is enabled, the system sends an email, right? So it's got the notifications, got the attachment. Once that email leaves the system then goes through the database, removes the voicemail from the voicemail box, right? So that way voicemail box can't get full, right? Because it's always getting messages deleted. One thing to be aware of though, is that means the only way to check voicemail is via email, right? There's no way to call in and listen to your voicemails. There's no way to access them via the user portal. Follow Me is for people with multiple devices. You would click Enable, and then you need to tell the system what phones to make use of. You uncheck the boxes next to each phone that you want to use, and these are sliders. Oops. So now I can do something like that. Notice, just like groups up here, I have a total duration of 2 minutes. Right? I have a distribute button, so I can choose the order or the even out the ring times, right? I can click and drag and change the order around. And then save changes, right? So basically, just follow on devices. Now, for your users who are in groups, right? Calls that come from their groups, they're going to ignore the follow me settings. They're just going to ring them all at once. All right, fax box. You can have your users have their own fax box if you want them to. You have a choice of adding a phone number, buying a new one, or adding a spare, or you can use an extension. Now, if you use an extension number only, this person can only ever receive faxes. They're not going to be able to send out faxes. Right? It's because the system basically, when they create the email to send a fax out, right, the system checks the user, says, oh, they have a fax box. We use all those parameters. Right? So that phone number or extension number to send out. Well, an extension number is not long enough for caller ID purposes, so the fax fails because the fax is technically a phone call. So it needs to have valid caller ID. Then you would click on Save Changes once that is created. Conference Bridge, for an admin, once you enable it, the only thing you need to do is create a PIN number and then click on Save Changes. Once that's done, the user can go to the user portal and they can change their PIN numbers. Call forwarding. So you have off, on, and failover mode. Your users can turn call forwarding off or on their own. They can do that on the user portal, or if they're using VoIP phones, there's feature codes to adjust or turn on and off call forwarding. Failover mode is the only thing that admins would need to address. And basically what this means is if the system detects the VoIP phone on the account becomes unregistered and a call comes into that user at that time, under failover mode, the system will then automatically forward the call to the cell phone or mobile phone number. Right, so you would click on failover mode, you select desk or mobile, +1 area code and phone number, save changes. Customize call recording. So first you would choose to enable this if you want to make use of call recording, and then you need to decide what kind of calls you're recording. So inbound internal, right, coworker Bob called me. Inbound external, customer Mary called me. Outbound internal, right, I called coworker Bob. Outbound external, I called customer Mary. And then you click on Save Changes. Now, every account includes some level of storage as part of your monthly plan price. If you go over that, we don't stop storing call recordings, for example. We just would charge you the next, I think we go by the gigabyte amount of storage. For the specifics of that, you'd want to talk to our account services team or email them at accountservices@virtualpbx.com. So that way they can let you know, hey, what your storage includes, or how much storage is included, and what the overage is. Music on hold, you can have your users have their own hold music. You just click enable, upload a file, .mp3, .ogg, .wav, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, and then save changes. Do not disturb. If you turn this on, that means calls to this user don't ring his device, right? They will just go to his voicemail. If Aaron was in a ring group and his do not disturb is on, he's not offered the calls. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. You click enable. You give a hot desk ID. I normally just say, hey, if you make use of 4-digit extensions, make your hot desk IDs their extension number, because people will normally remember their extension numbers. You can, up to you if you want to require a PIN number, and then click Save Changes. So hot desking is used for like a shared office environment or for hybrid scheduling where you're trying to reduce your infrastructure, right? So Aaron comes in the office on Tuesday. He sits down at desk number 2, picks up the handset, dial *11, right? *11. That turns on hot desking on that phone. The system asks him for his hot desk ID number. It then tells him, okay, calls will now be sent to this device. Rest of his workday, he's sitting at desk number 2, working away. Any call that comes to his user, it's going to ring at that device. End of his day, picks up the handset, hits *12, and that turns off hot desking on that phone. So the next time he comes in the office is Friday. He sees Angela sitting at desk number 2. He says, good morning. He just walks down to desk number 10, sits down, same thing, *11, onto hot desk ID, and now he's getting calls. All right, voicemail boxes. So these are all the voicemail boxes on the account. The ones here with their name in the middle, this third column here, that means that's the user voicemail box, right? It's created with the user. They don't have that. That means it was either a system-created voicemail, in the case of the main voicemail box, or a voicemail box you created here on this page, which we can do up here. You give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. You click on Create Voicemail Box. Now, at any time under Advanced, for any voicemail box, right, you click on the wrench icon there. Select the greeting media. You can upload a file, right? .mp3, .ogg, .wav, recorded in mono. Now, the media is the normal file that will play, right? Like their day-to-day, voicemail greeting. Temporary, this is for their out of office or vacation voicemail. So if something is selected in temporary, it's going to play, right? It will supersede the media file until you put temporary back to none. Recipients, so your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient, right? The email used for login. For any voicemail box you create manually, you would want to come to this page here. So Advanced Recipients, click Add New Voicemail, or Add New Recipient, enter the email address. Now, if you only need to add the one, then you just need to click Save Changes. If you need to add multiple, you would click Add Again, enter the next email address until you're done. So once a voicemail box has a media file, right, greeting media, and a recipient, you can go to Options, and then you can click on Already Set Up. Down here, right, you've got the attached emails to voicemail, or attached messages to email, as well as you have the delete after notification option. You also have the announce only mode, which is if you want a voicemail box that's only there to give out information, right? It won't accept an inbound message. And then any changes, click on Save Changes. Advanced routing is for direct inward system access, or DISA. This just allows you to call in with the cell phone or landline to your main numbers. You can log in and then make an outbound call. And when you make that outbound call, it's not your cell phone that shows up on the outbound call ID, but your main number. Now, this feature is not enabled on new accounts when you sign up. This is something you'd actually have to talk to our account services team about before it would show up here. But once it's here, you would click on this click enable. We'll click on it here, and it automatically assigns a PIN number. You can change this. Now, if you leave it just like this, that means you want DISA to be a menu option, right? Like option 9 off your virtual receptionist. I don't recommend that just because it's easy for someone to find it accidentally, and then you might get that kind of person who wants to, break things, right? So they'll try to find out what the PIN number is, and then they can make calls on your account. So if you click Edit Settings, make it a random PIN number, but then I say add an extension number. And for the extension number, right, don't use a system suggestion, just use something that's outside of the normal range of your extensions, right? Because that makes it that much harder for someone to guess. But then you would click on Save Changes. So now you call into your main number. You enter the extension number, which hopefully only your staff members know, and then you enter the PIN number. After you hit that PIN number, you hear dial tone again, right? You enter area code and phone number, you make an outbound call, and again, it's that main number that you set up under the dashboard, the main company number. I'm going to go ahead and disable this, so I don't have to worry about it on this account. Now, one way to keep track of your call traffic would be under your call logs. So here we see today's calls. I have a fair number of calls that came into the system, right? Green arrow to the right means it came into the system, but most of these are pretty short. You can download this file, it's a CSV. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you can gain a lot more information out of it. But here you can also see I have a yellow arrow to the left. So that's an outbound call, and I see Jean did this from her web phone. So I know that's a legit call out. But we can go further back to this month. And so here we see a call came in. It's like they left voicemail or they hung out on hold. And here you see a call came in and went to this device, but no answer. Little fire hydrant icon here. This allows you to report a call, right? So it creates an email for you that goes to support@virtualpbx.com. It's going to have the technical details, right? You would want to type in the context, like what happened or what you experienced. So that way we know why you're reporting the call specifically. Typically on your call report or call logs, you want to see normal clearing because that just means the call ended normally, right? When you click to expand it, right, you can see, oh, no answer. Okay, maybe nothing wrong. Maybe I need to talk to this person to find out why aren't you answering your calls. But if you see something odd, like no route destination, that's something you'd want to contact us about, especially if it keeps happening. Custom, this allows you to set the date range. The system will let you go back up to 1 year. So you can pull down the call logs, you can download them. If you need to keep your call log information for compliance reasons, I would recommend you do this once a month. Just download it every month. If you have heavy call volume, you might have to go down by week to week via the custom. All right. Also for the call logs, our engineering team can go back up to 18 months, but after that, the data is no longer available. All right, feature codes, I've already talked about a couple of these, but these are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phones. This information is on a web page on our support pages. There's also a document called the Phone Commands Cheat Sheet on our support pages, which has this information as well as how to use it, use the feature codes. and what it's for. All right, so that's the dashboard. So we'll go over here to blacklists. Blacklists allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from allowing to reach your system. So you would click Edit Blacklists. You would either click on Add to create a new list or click on an existing list, right? But you give it a name and then you choose, are you blocking an anonymous caller ID or not? And that just means if we're not getting valid inbound phone number information, and this is on, then the system blocks a call. Beyond that, you would click on Add Number, and then you put +1 area code and phone number. No dashes, no parentheses, no spaces, just the plus sign, the number 1, area code, and phone number. And then click Add if you need to keep adding more numbers, right, until you're done. Once you're done, you click Save. You go click on Back to Settings up here at the top right, and then you make sure these lists are over here to the right under Selected, and click Update. Once the lists are on the right-hand side, that means the numbers on those lists are now blocked from reaching your system. All right, call recording. So there's 2 versions of call recording. Standard call recording would actually take you to open up a new tab and take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com, where you'd use your dash login to log in, and you can see your recorded files there. You can play them back, download them, delete them. Or you can make use of the AWS integration, right? Amazon Web Services, where basically you're linking your dash system to Amazon Web Services so that Amazon Web Services can store your call recording information, right? That's something you'd want to do if you have heavy call volume and you're recording every call, because AWS charges by the terabyte, and it's it's pretty cheap when I last looked. So if you're using AWS here, you would see your Amazon Web Storage recordings here, so you can play them back, listen to them, delete them. Monitor is a plan-specific feature, and this just lets you to see the status of your staff members. Doesn't matter what phone they're using, right? So if they're using their Yealink phone or their Polycom phone, it would still show up. Like if they're on active inbound calls, each call would have its own box, be blue on the left side, showing who's calling in and who they're talking to. Reports is also a plan-specific feature. This actually takes you to reports.virtualpbx.com, where you have to log in. This is the advanced reporting. So this is the call log, where it's more advanced than the call logs. You can create your own reports. It gives you more insights about what's going on with your calls. You'd want to go to our YouTube channel and under videos, look for the advanced reporting demo to show you what it's capable of. Voicemails is an included feature. This, as an admin, you can get to any voicemail box on the account. You can see all their messages, even the ones that have been deleted, right? You can see the status, the date, the time, who called, and the phone number, what phone number they dialed, right? Duration. You can play it back. You can download it. You put a check mark in front of it. You can move the voicemail file to another voicemail box, right? As well as mark it as new, listened, deleted, or just straight out delete. Integration AWS, that's for that AWS integration where you can add this. So you have to have an AWS account to get this information, and then you would save changes. The AWS integration does need to be activated. You'd have to speak to our account services team. All right, ACD queues. ACD stands for automatic call distribution. Now, these are an upgrade feature to existing plans. So it's possible you may have to upgrade plans first, and then you can add ACD queues on top of. You'd have to speak to our account services team. Now, this is a call center feature. You click on either add new queue, or in this case, I'm just going to click on the little gear icon. You give it a name, and then queues can have either a phone number or an extension, right? So buy a new, add friend spare, or just give it an extension number. Then you have the queue routing strategy. Again, unfortunately, this pull down doesn't work. Round robin will equalize out over time. You've got most idle, meaning who's ever been waiting the longest gets the next call. Least calls, least amount of connected calls. Least offers, that's the combination of missed and connected calls. Right? So whoever has the least amount of that combination gets the next call. Hold treatment, you can upload MP3, WAV, OGG. Now, we also have Pro queues, right? ACD queues Pro. They have a higher fee, and I think they're even more limited in terms of the plans they're associated with. For the hold treatment on the Pro queues, you can actually have multiple media files play, right, in sequence. You can announce the position in line or the expected wait time. Queue timeout in seconds, how much time the inbound caller can wait on hold. Queue call limit, you can limit the number of callers that can be waiting on hold. All right, so that means 4 people can wait on hold. That's on top of the people who are already speaking to my staff members. If I change this to 0, there's no limit. Timeout immediately if empty. If this is enabled, that just means if I have no staff members logged into the queue and a call comes into the queue, the system treats that caller as if they've already hit this 3,600 seconds up here at the queue timeout. That's where this comes into play. The escalation call flow after timeout. So after that 3,600 seconds come, where do you want to send the callers? Right. So pull down, select a group, select another queue, send them back to your virtual receptionist, what have you. The zero out call flow. This, if you have something selected here, then you're enabling the ability to press 0 for the inbound caller while they're waiting on hold. And then from the pull down, you need to select where they're going, right? When I have this set to none, that means they have to wait on hold or they have to hang up. The agent behavior, so the agent recovery timer, measured in seconds. This is how much time the system gives an agent after they've completed a queue call before it offers them another call from the queue. Force away on reject or missed. If an agent misses a call and this is enabled, then the system will automatically mark them away until that agent marks themselves ready again. And then agent connect timeout measured in seconds, default is 20. On the queues, both standard and pro, you can only accept calls with a VoIP phone. So 20 seconds is plenty of time. And then you would click on Save Changes or Create if you're creating a new queue. Once you've created a queue or queues, you click over here on the left under Members. And then you see okay, so Taylor here is the only person allowed to be in the queues. If I click on Manage Members, I can click and, I can select people, and I can add them as members. Right, so now they're part of my team that can be in queues. If I click back on the queues icon, if I click on the support team here queue, or my support, I can click Add Agents. And so now I can add Aaron by clicking and dragging, click Save Changes. I can also add managers. So I can click and drag and add Taylor over, for example. Now, once you're part of a queue, you can click on Begin Session. And we'll see here, I'm marked away, right? So I have a little red bar. Now, what you want to do is click on the little phone icon here, and this is for all your staff members. They need to select the device, right? It defaults to select all, which is not good since I have a cell phone in the mix, right? So I want to select my green VoIP phone, right? Because I know it's registered. Then click on the little icon, and now I can mark myself as ready. So now I have a little green icon. Basically, now I'm waiting to accept the call. When I'm being offered a call, my little bar here turns light blue. When I'm on an inbound connected call, it turns a dark blue. When I'm on an outbound call or someone called my extension number directly, I'll turn yellow. And then when I'm on wrap-up time, I'm a like golden color. Now, when I go to lunch, I would just mark myself as away, so that way I'm not part of the, wasting someone's whole time, right? Just be offered to the next agent. And then end of my shift, I would click end session. We do recommend logging out of the queues every day and then back in, just so that way the database doesn't forget that you're in the queues. Pro queues, they have a performance icon, so managers can compare agents in terms of their call statistics. The pro queues also have the ability for managers to eavesdrop on a call, right? They can whisper, right? So they can help their agent without the customer hearing, as well as barge in. We do have a demo on our YouTube channel for the pro queues. Just go under YouTube, under videos, ACD Queues Pro demo. Accounts can only have one or the other. I can either have standard queues or pro queues. You can't have both. That's why I can only show you the one. Right. Dynamic caller ID. This is a plan-specific feature, and this allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users. So first one here, right? You give it a name, and then you select the phone number on your account, and then you select the parameter, right? In this case, it said, hey, whenever they dial 408, automatically change their outbound caller ID to this 408 phone number. Now, the other one you can do is this one here, where I'm saying, whenever my staff member dials *550, right, and then enter the phone number that they're calling, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to this 323 phone number. Faxes, this takes you to the fax manager. This is an included feature, and you can get to anyone's fax box. So let's see. So Aaron here had a fax a little over a week ago, it looks like. See the phone number it came from, went to his fax box, the phone number, pages. You can download the file. You can see the technical information. All right, if you have a checkbox here, then you can remove a fax. You can click on this to refresh. Outbound fax. So you can see if, let's see if Aaron, see here, he had a successful fax, but he also had a failed fax. Date and the time. This last icon here, we'd want to click on the failed fax and see if it gives us any more information. Which it does not. It just says it didn't, it failed to succeed. But sometimes you'll see a thing like user busy, meaning the line was busy, or like there was a disconnect after like there was a connection, premature disconnection, right? So basically we had initial connection and then something happened to disrupt the connection. So basically if you see a failure under outbound faxes, that means we had a problem communicating with the other device, whether the initial communication attempt or even after we connected, something happened to disrupt the communication. We click on email to fax logs. Here we see this is where the system had problems processing the fax request. Right, we see the email address, we see the phone number, so this is the correct format. But if you click on the little eyeball icon here, then we see the errors, no valid attachments. So this could be there was no attachment at all, right? Like he forgot to attach anything, or it could be, oh, he attached a JPEG versus a PDF or a TIFF. Right here, we see this person wasn't on the account, so maybe the fax box wasn't enabled yet, etc. Number Manager takes you back to your spare numbers page. Webhooks, plan-specific feature you'd actually want to talk to our sales team about. This allows you to link Dash to other software, like Zapier, for example. In fact, we have a webinar on our YouTube channel, Introduction to Zapier. So you can get ideas of how we link Dash to other software. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.net. That will also have sample code, so you can see what we've done. If you click on New Webhook, this is essentially coding. So this is not for your average, grandma to come in and fool around with, unless she's been coding for her whole life, because there are, I'm sure, senior citizen coders, right? But in general, this is something you should be comfortable doing already, right? We don't have a lot of resources in terms of how to teach you how to code. And then lastly, we have the user portal. So every user on your account has access to their own user portal. Right? So as an admin, you're not able to get into anyone else's specific user portal, but you have access to everything as an admin. But here, users can see their voicemails if they don't have delete after notification enabled, right? They can play them back, they can listen to them, right? They can change the status of them as well. Call history, let's show your history. They can adjust their date range, they can go further back in time. The fax, this only shows up if they have their own fax box, so that way they can see their own fax history. Contact list shows everything in the Dash account, right? Other users, groups, queues, attendance, etc. Your staff members are not able to edit this on their own, right? Unless they're an admin, and then they can add new users, right? Then that new user would show up here. Conference tab. Over here on the right, and it's a little squished on my screen, so I apologize, but this is where your users would adjust their own PIN number, as well as the participant PIN number, right? They have the option here, are people joining deafened or muted? Are people playing entry and exit tones? Once you're in a conference, you can use the plus sign here to invite other Dash users to your conference. You can lock a conference so no one else can join, mute everybody, unmute everybody. You can end the call. Also, while you're in a conference, every participant's going to have their own little box. So you can mute a specific person as well as kick people out. And then the last tab, settings and devices. This is where your users would set up their own call forwarding. They just put a check mark here, +1 area code and phone number, and then whatever other options they want here, and then click on save, as well as see the status of their devices. That is everything. So I'll go back here to the dashboard. Sorry, I ran a little long there. I haven't seen any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Just another reminder, there is no training next Tuesday. That's June 28th, but we will be back on July 5th. I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.